Welcome to the Learning by Doing podcast. My name is Ethan Cisneros, Ethan from Thirst, as I like to brand myself. I'm the owner of Thirst Drinks here in Salt Lake. We are a very loud, offensive, ambitious company, and this podcast is part of the documentation of my journey. Here you're going to find insights in me running my business and kind of the behind the scenes. So let's check out an episode. Episode 14 of the Learning by Doing podcast. I'm remembering that this is one of the first time I've remembered the episode numbers in a long time. It's because I've been really looking forward to this episode, and I really wanted this to happen because this is Scott Porter, one of my best buddies, honestly, when it comes to the business owner realm. I would say one of my closest friends. The reason I think we're pretty close friends is there's never judgment when we don't text each other back for like a week. You ever notice that?
Yes.
Because at least I know that I'm
dude,
like,
we're
he's
so
good.
busy.
He's
Yeah,
busy.
yeah.
And like, so we've known each other for a while. Our businesses have worked together, which we'll talk about super, super closely, and have been through a lot together, I would say.
Like the whole time we've been in business, really, almost. Both of us, yeah.
So let's take it back to the story of how we met, shall we?
Let's do it.
We can tell that, and then I want to hear exactly what your story was leading into that, but just for the context of how Thirst and San Diablo Churros, which is Scott's current company, met, the way I remember it is that there was a gateway this is 2016, a gateway event where different vendors were selling, I think it was like a fireworks show or something like that.
Okay, yeah.
And we were next to San Diablo Churros.
Was it the summertime?
Yeah, it was the summertime.
Yeah.
It was just when we started barely catering, had a rookie catering line. And super popular churro place next to us ended up getting a card or something. It was you and some other guy you were working with, and ended up messaging them a bunch of times till we were able to meet. This is early days, like when one store Thirst with sub 2,000 followers, like
I love it.
Really early days. And one of the ways I was like, I'm gonna blow this thing up by collaborating with someone different every single weekend.
Yeah.
And I pitched that to you, and at the time, like, I just remember thinking San Diablo is way out of our league. Like, there's no way we're going to get him to Thirst.
Which is hilarious.
And then we got him in, and I was like, no, I think I could sell like 100 churros in a night. And at the time, like, I think was impressed you enough that you were like, all right, yeah, let's figure this out. And another one of those stories where I met a business owner through weekend features, but Scott was one of them. And so we've done tons of stuff together.
Yeah,
and there was a time where both of our Mill Creek and downtown, every single Monday was doing churros. We've done tons of stuff through quarantine, which I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Kind of how we did that. But Scott Porter, welcome to the podcast.
It's so great to be here. Thanks.
Give me your
I love
entrepreneur
this.
story, dude, because we never even had this conversation, by the way. But like, what were you doing before San Diablo? What led you in? Why do he also has different platforms he's posting content on, which I think we see a very similar vision there of what we're doing with content. But Taco Incidents, Search for the Perfect Taco.
Yeah.
What else am I missing?
No, that's it. I mean, right? That's it. There's
doing tons of stuff,
like tacos and churros. That's life, right?
Tell me the story. Tell me the taco churro story. Tell me why you're doing that stuff, but take it all the way back.
Yeah.
Take it all the way back.
Okay.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks. It's so great to be here, man. I respect and admire you, and have learned a ton from you, actually. And so it's like I just love your hustle. I love your drive. Your energy and enthusiasm are just absolutely contagious. And so
thank you.
When
likewise.
you said, "Hey, let's do this," I'm like, whatever it is, like Ethan says anything, let's do this. I'm like, yeah, I'm in 100%.
You've always been that way. Skurt's going to be mad at me for interrupting, but you've always been that way, by the way. Like, anytime I text Scott an idea, we're in, of course.
Yeah.
Like, literally doesn't even wait for an explanation, and it means a lot that you trust us.
Well, I mean, I think that just comes from both of us connect really well on this abundance mentality, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, hey, let's help everyone succeed.
Yeah.
And I've really appreciated that about you. And I think that sort of mentality and mindset of optimism and abundance and not like competition and scarcity and like defensiveness.
Yeah.
It's more just like embrace, like, let's make this happen.
Totally,
all of
dude.
us can succeed together.
Yeah.
You know? And
Totally.
so I just love that. I love that about who you are and how you share that.
Thank you.
And it comes across in everything you do.
Thank
you know?
you. Thank you so much.
So it's awesome. And so I'm honored to be here. Yeah, thanks so much for asking me. It's been, entrepreneurship is a wild ride. It's a roller coaster, like even within seconds, right? But over a lifetime, I mean, this has been my ride that I've chosen, and I also feel like has chosen me. Like it's just who I am.
Has it been for forever?
Well, so I remember when I was a kid, I was about 8 years old, and I created a neighborhood newspaper.
No way.
So, yeah, well, and you won't remember these days, but I literally was on a typewriter. I know that sounds like I crossed the plains as a pioneer, but like I was on a typewriter, and I interviewed like my friends' parents, and like, what's your job? And then I interviewed my friends and their family about their vacation that they took. And then I typed it up and sold it back to them for like 25 cents.
Dude, that is out of the box entrepreneur kid story.
And my office was underneath my parents, underneath our stairwell in our basement in our house.
Dude.
So I set up a desk with the typewriter. And,
that's the best. That puts lemonade in the dirt.
Well, that was there was lemonade stand. There were lemonade stands, Kool-Aid stands,
nice.
and lemonade
like
stands too. But and so it's just been in my blood. My father's an entrepreneur. He grew up as a farmer, and then was a general contractor. And so I just saw all of the ups and downs, and the hardship, and the success, and all of the, I don't know. It's just like something I can't. Once it's in your blood, it's in your blood. Yeah. You know?
Well, tell us the story.
So then what happened next?
Yeah. So then,
as time went on, I went to BYU for undergrad, studied public relations.
What were you doing till then? Like, what were you like in high school? What were you kind of, did you carry it? You feel like you kept this mentality going your whole life?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I was always starting things, whether it was
a club or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like something that was going on. My best friends in high school and I were always like getting together and creating these like epic dates,
Yeah,
and, like,
dude, that's exactly what I would do.
And
that's
it was always like, and then that carried on into all throughout college, same thing, and epic pranks and dates and all these things. And so, and then my first job out of undergrad was the first employee at a brand new PR agency. So I literally like built my IKEA desk on my first day on the job. Like he's like, here's a screwdriver. I'm like, okay, well I'm, this is what you do when you start a business. Like you do what it takes. And so I was the first employee, and he was taking a risk on me, and so I wanted to reward that risk with like, I'll do whatever. So I did that and went back to business school at BYU, and was always drawn towards, I knew I needed to find something that allowed me the creative freedom and also the opportunity and accountability to grow something and to be successful. That was always a huge drive of mine. And so,
how was your school experience?
Awesome.
Then?
Yeah. And I was like,
were you a great student?
In undergrad, I always loved, like, I love learning. There are things that I love learning better than others. And so a lot of my undergrad was exploring that, both from like a professional experience as well as topics. Like I took an anatomy class because I thought maybe I wanted to go into medicine and be a doctor.
Just to see.
And and I wanted to see cadavers, and I wanted to like dig in and realize that it was fascinating to me, but I didn't have the stomach for it.
It wasn't you. Yeah.
It wasn't me.
Yeah.
So I tried a bunch of different other things, graphic design, and ultimately ended up in public relations. And that was it would just fit. It aligned with who I am and how I view things, and really has had a tremendous impact on how I've done business because of the way that it helps. The PR curriculum at BYU helps you think through audience and message and how important that is. And regardless of whatever business you're doing, that sort of understanding about how you're communicating and what you're and who you're communicating to and how you're trying to get them to take action was as like been influential and modified how I've done everything since.
Yeah, dude, I'd love to even stop on that because I think college is the most interesting debate for entrepreneurs actually doing it.
Yeah.
Right? And something I've learned recently, I was talking to Lauren about this on my last podcast, is I used to think that the key to scaling was to build, I like getting into these platforms and building really precise systems, right? I know you do too.
Yeah.
So for instance, I just signed up for Trainual, this training software. I built took so much of my time, like of not sleeping, just creating these trainees. I was obsessed with it. I'm like, this is going to be the key to expansion because now everyone's trained perfectly. And all I got to do is build that, set it aside, and go. The part I was missing is navigating relationships is actually the hardest part of scaling, I think. As I've gotten to this point in my business where I'm now managing the managers of other people and 100 plus employees, I'm looking at doubling that this summer. I'm like, actually, everything else can be taught and scaled out and built into a system, but how to navigate relationships and the things that you say, exact words that you say, how you respond to your employees, what kind of attitude you're rubbing off on them, how you coach them to respond to their employees. That is the way that you scale.
Yeah.
It's the hardest part and thing to do. And so I think it's interesting because I don't believe in college for marketing and a lot of entrepreneurship, because I think that you learn those by doing them and they're constantly changing, and the best, fastest, most efficient way to do it is by actually just doing it.
Yeah.
But you're talking about how you went to school and learned this thing that I'm trying to learn currently in my business, which is how to manipulate people, I guess. That has like a negative connotation, but how to get people to be happy enough to run our businesses for us, right? And it's almost like we're trying to selfish to be selfless. Like we're trying to make them happy to get them to do what we want. You know what I mean? It's the hardest part of scaling my business by far is how I can do everything else. I feel unstoppable in every other category other than what do I say to my manager right now who's complaining about her manager because someone didn't show up for their shift? Like just things like that I think are the hardest thing. I don't know. Do you feel like you learned a lot of that in your degree? And
I think that was foundational for sure. Just understanding the who your audience is with everything that you're communicating, whether you're an entrepreneur or you're doing another business or you're a lawyer or a doctor, whoever, everything you do communicates a message and sends a message, even verbally and non-verbally, right? And so how do you, and especially as an entrepreneur, you're selling a vision. So like as you're looking to scale, you are bringing on people to run your baby. You're like passing it off to someone, something that is so much a part of who you are and what you believe in and what you've spent like blood, sweat, and tears doing. And now you're saying, now I'm giving it to you and I'm trusting you with this. And they're like, yeah, I'm on board. And so our jobs as entrepreneurs, so much of what we do is selling the vision. So how do we sell that vision? How do we communicate everything that we believe in from a mission, vision, values standpoint, how we execute on things operationally, logistically,
what are you doing?
How we approach?
What are those things? Like, I would love to know, like, what are you doing in your company? How do you communicate with your employees? Let me just get selfish here. Like how do you, when you're talking to a manager, say that maybe you need to discipline them. I think that's a really hard subject. It's like, what's kind of your approach with talking to employees and keeping them held accountable? And because I feel like that's the hardest part for me is, keeping them accountable, but also keeping them happy and in a good environment, having a good relationship with them. How do you what's your take there?
Oh man,
that's an open-ended question.
No, I mean, it's so good. And the reason why I just chuckle is because I am constantly checking myself on that.
Me too.
Am I, I think especially in high stress situations. I mean, we've been at events together. Stressful events.
We've been stressed at the same time.
It's stressed at the same time. Like, how do I deal with that? How am I holding myself and others to a high standard?
Yeah.
And how am I communicating that? So you're asking, how do I do that? Well, I think,
what are some things you keep in
especially
mind?
in stressful situations,
Yeah.
I have to breathe. I know that sounds like, I mean, obviously, but like, I like will step away and like sometimes physically step away, or if I can't, mentally step away for a second and just be like, okay, I need to think through this.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that what I'm saying or how I react is not going to
be regretted.
have negative connotations or not necessarily. I mean, because you can. How is it going to maintain a sense of dignity and self-worth and help elevate behavior?
Yeah.
While still correcting behavior that maybe wasn't appropriate.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think just like mentally checking yourself, I think is the first step.
Yeah.
And I don't always do it, and I don't always do it well.
Most people don't too. I don't say most people don't.
I want my team to feel like I care about them, because I do. I care about them as individuals, and I also care about what we are creating together. And so, and as with your business, we have a lot of people on our teams that it's maybe their first job.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's our responsibility and our manager's responsibility to help continue to build and develop character.
Yeah.
That will help them throughout the rest of their life.
Yeah.
To provide a great environment where they feel like they're continuing to develop and grow and contribute to something in a positive way.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, they're going to be making money too, but my I think like that's the other thing for me when I'm thinking about how I'm communicating with my team is I need to constantly remember that. Like, this is more important than that one churro that I'm selling right now.
That's huge. Right
this
there,
is
dude.
more important than that. Like, I want to help them continue to progress and develop, and I want us to grow together and improve. Just literally on my way over here, we were talking about some over text with my team. We were talking about some systems that we need to improve, and one of my big drums that I'm beating right now, like currently, is this preventable scramble. You're in catering.
Totally
You know
know what you
all
mean, yeah.
about the scramble.
Yeah.
It's like, that's just the way of life in catering. But it's the preventable scramble that will reduce stress, help people feel happier.
Yeah.
You know, like our team will go to something and there's no scramble. Because there's always going to be a scramble. Oh, this, we plugged in here and the circuit blew. And
Yeah.
I mean that.
But their job is to go there and be happy and provide an amazing experience.
And if we can prevent the scramble, we can basically like free up our team to create this amazing
Focus on that.
experience.
Yeah, totally.
And they're like connecting with people because they're not worried about like this not working or that going wrong or the weather or whatever it is.
Yep.
Some of those things we can't prevent.
Yep.
But let's hone in on what we can. And so we were talking about that with the team. And when you're asking about how I communicate, and the words that I just texted minutes ago were like, we are better than this.
Yeah.
We are better than the preventable scramble. Or we can do a preventable scramble. We are better than the last minute scramble.
Yeah.
That is not it, that we can do better. We are better. I know we are.
Yeah.
And so I think that so my communication style has always been to like, let's grow together and empower you to come up with solutions in whatever role you're in.
Yeah.
Some of our best things that we, like the straws that we use for our to-go things, for the churros that are for our delivery, that came from one of our team members. That was an idea we're like brainstorming together. So I want to help people feel like everyone has a meaningful contribution and is making a difference. And so I just try and remember that in my communication style. And I don't always do, I'm like way far from perfect.
Yeah.
I don't always do it well.
So just to piggyback off that. So first thing that comes to mind is, yeah, I think that you're right. And I credit a lot of people like you in my early days of, I'm talking 5 years ago when I was just starting Thirst, understanding that actually caring about that is cool, and it actually builds big, cool businesses. You know what I mean? Like I saw a few entrepreneurs, you being one of them early on, that was like, to your point, just made a note of it in their head, just as conscious of how they're treating their employees and why, and actually making an impact bigger than the money is huge. So I think that's something huge that stood out to me. My second is I just have a question, because you've probably heard me say this, and we've talked about this, is I think taking accountability this is something I teach to all of my managers, is we basically never make excuses. Like, what could we have done to prevent it? Because it's the quickest way to find a solution. Could we have trained that person better? Could we have been more clear about something? Could we have, scheduled someone to do this other thing? But lately I'm learning something, which is sometimes I think that taking too much accountability is not putting enough accountability on the person that we're trying to work with. And for example, if something's clearly going wrong at one of my stores or in my catering line, yeah, I can sit here and try to take accountability because it's fastest, and I can fix those things that I'm going to take accountability for. But equally as important, I think, to hold employees accountable and make sure that they're doing everything that they can. Does that resonate with you? Like, is that your strategy, to try to take accountability first of what you could have done? And does that make sense to you, or is it like, tell me about the balance there? Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Because it's something I believed in for
100%.
over anything, and I'm teaching my employees every single day.
Yeah.
But recently I'm like, but wait, I also need to hold them accountable and make sure that I'm not being too soft, to call it blunt. You know what I mean? Talk to me about that.
I think that there's, no. I mean, I'll commiserate with you all day on that. That's like 100%. It's that it is the balance of like like the mirror principle, right? Like looking at yourself in the mirror about like something went wrong. Was it something that I could have done to have helped that gone better?
Yeah.
And is that something holding someone accountable for doing their job as well? I think there's definitely, they need to see that they meaning our team needs to see that we hold ourselves accountable as much or more than we hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Like, look, I'm expecting you, like, how can I expect them to do something that I don't want to do, or that I don't realize, like, oh yeah, I messed up. That was a mistake that we made. And falling on your sword. There's a quote that there's a quote that I love that it was said of Abraham Lincoln that he took more than his fair share of the blame and less than his fair share of the credit.
Yeah.
For things that he did.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's like we need to be lead out,
Yeah.
We need to lead out and say, they're like this is something that I'm trying to think. You asked for an example.
Well, let me give you an example of something that happened in my catering business. This is like 2 years ago, so I feel fine sharing it. It's like, Scott and I are both in the catering business, and I think this is hugely relatable to anyone in the restaurant industry that does catering or has a catering business, because, man, it's stressful. And at the end of the day,
it's like some of these people's biggest days of their lives.
That's what I was
like,
just gonna say.
They are inviting you into, like, they're getting married, or it's their anniversary, or whatever the occasion is, but they're inviting you to be a part of that. That's something so special.
It's pressure too,
and it's a lot of pressure.
It's a lot of pressure, and so I remember something that went wrong. This one wasn't a wedding; it was a corporate thing, but went hugely wrong, and it was super embarrassing. And I feel like a lot of business owners get to this point where, okay, we know we need to do some discipline, and we're like, spend the weekend or spend the night deciding, what's the best way we can do it. And I've since been kind of trying to coach my managers to do this same thing to their employees, because I think it works really well. Is 2 years ago, I thought about this and executed it this way. I after the event, I said, hey, we're gonna have a meeting after this event. Everyone come be there. And I said, everyone knows the performance that just happened. This can never happen again. That being said, here are the things that I know I messed up on and I could have been way better on, and listed them out. And I think if you approach a situation like that, this is what I'm learning, is that it immediately takes the tone of the meeting from hostile, like, all right, if you and I messed up an event together and we have to go to a meeting after, it's like, I'm thinking of all the things that you did because I'm defensive, right? That's just natural, right? But if you set the tone of the meeting of, guys, I messed up in these ways. Here's what I did. And then I asked all my employees to say, hey, all right, so those are all the things that I know that I messed up on. I'd like everyone else to go around and say what they could have done better to prevent this from happening. It's been good. And even in a situation like I get in the stores all the time of a manager dealing with an employee or a situation that was underperformance, going in and first just taking accountability sets the tone of, this isn't a fight. We're trying to figure this out because we're both trying hard right now. And we just need to figure it out for the betterment of the business.
Yeah, and I think too, something else that's really, I love that example. I think something else that's really been so helpful for me over the businesses that I've run before San Diablo, in the nursing home business, and then when we started an airline, in all of those different examples and experiences that I've had, is when we can go back to a common core mission and values that we have determined and decided that, like we're talking about, as an entrepreneur, you're selling your vision. This is your vision, and we're codifying it. We are putting it down on paper, and we are saying we believe in this, and we are trying to execute on that all the time. These are the values. This is the type of experience that we are wanting to create.
Yeah.
If you have that foundation there, we can then go to the team in conversations like you were just saying and say, okay, guys, we know we want to create the best food experience in the world. We want to help people feel the joy of food. We want everyone to feel like a VIP. How did we do? Because those are all things for San Diablo.
Yeah.
Like, that's our mission.
Yeah.
How did we do? How did we do? We literally have these conversations every single Monday morning when we're having our leadership meeting and planning meeting. Well, we go through every event from the past week.
Good and bad?
And what's that?
Good. Do you go over good stuff?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we talk about everything. Good and bad, what went wrong, is this the type of experience that we are trying to create? And we have a reminder, the D is dedication, the I is interaction, not transaction, the A is attention to detail. We review these types of values, and then we hold ourselves accountable to that.
Who do you call to that meeting?
VIP?
Who's in that meeting? Your whole team?
So our leadership team. So we have our director of operations, our events manager, our HR staffing person, and our head chef.
Before we get too ahead of ourselves, I need to know the Scott Porter story because I just went way deep into a tangent, but I think it was awesome. So thank you.
Yeah.
Tell me what you did after going to college then.
Yeah. So then after in the business at my MBA program at BYU, I also wanted to do something entrepreneurial, like the corporate, move my way up the ladder path was never enticing to me at all.
Got it. Yeah.
And that's most of traditional academia, puts you down that path. Yeah. And so it always felt like not really my thing and not a match. And so I was always carving my own, choose your own adventure sort of journey. And so after business school, I went to an info session with this nursing home company, which I never in a million years had even thought about nursing homes as a business, let alone considered going to one to work.
Yeah.
And they came, and I think because they were doing an info session with free pizza, I'm like, okay, this is great. Fine, I'll go. My friend mentioned it, and I'm like, okay, that's fine. So I went, and I was really intrigued by their business model. They took over distressed properties, distressed nursing homes, whether it was financially ruined or reputation-wise, regulation, whatever, and they turned them around. Okay. And they made them reputable. They made them successful. They And as a operator, they basically like gave you the keys and like had you run this as your own business. And I was like, wow, this is really intriguing. And I think there were two parts to it that like really drew me in. The first was that I love like taking something that I love the challenge of taking something that has like a bad reputation or something that is like distressed and like turning it around. I mean that like challenge is so fascinating to me. And the other is I've always wanted to do something in business that has a direct impact on helping improve people's lives or bringing joy, reducing pain.
That's what you got from the nursing home.
And so I was like, this is awesome. And
how old were you at this point?
I was 32. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I went and decided to be a nursing home administrator, and it was amazing. And the first nursing home I ran was in Pasadena area of Southern California. And it was a smaller building that was bankrupt. And that's when I first really became this voracious student of culture and brand experience, because we didn't have any money to dedicate to marketing or anything. And so I started to study what other people had done. We had to build a culture and an experience that was going to get people talking, and have that be like our biggest marketing tool was word of mouth. And this like awesome experience, so that because at a nursing home, no one's talking. The only thing you're saying is like, this is horrible. Like, I can't believe what they did to my dad, or it smells, or like everything, like all these terrible negative things is what you talk about. But what if, like in over dinner conversation, you're like, oh my gosh, well, my father's in a nursing home, but this CNA was so kind, and they just did this, or every time I go, they look me in the eye and they know my name, and they like gave me a bottle of water, and they cared, and they listened, and like whatever those special things were that let people know that you care about them. And like you were saying earlier, this is a relationship.
You do this with San Diablo. It's amazing to see what others correlate.
Well, I mean, that's where I learned it. I learned it from studying like what people like businesses like Disney and Trader Joe's and Starbucks and Zappos and, Nordstrom and Ritz-Carlton. I mean, you do this too. Like, it's brilliant.
It's about the experience.
It's like, we are creating an experience. We're not just anyone can sell soda. Anyone can sling churros.
Yeah.
But like,
probably better than we can in some instances, maybe faster, cheaper. Yeah. But like at the end of the day, we're focusing on the experience, which I think is
and we want people to feel something special. And sure, like the food needs to be good, the soda needs to be great, all of that's foundational. But like what's really going to create something different and really a barrier to entry for competition is that no one can replicate the San Diablo experience. Yep. No one can replicate the Thirst experience, because that's what you've built, you know, and you're building a relationship with people like we are too. Like, people are inviting us into their lives, into their homes, to do a party for their son's 16th birthday or whatever it is. And so we are now a part of their story, their life story. I had someone come up to me, gosh, it was like at several months back, and I'm like, we were selling, I think we were at FitCon, which is ironic for churros, but I mean, when they want to cheat, they want to cheat well, right? And so we were at FitCon, and I said, hey, would you like to try some churros? Have you had our churros before? She said, actually, you guys catered our wedding. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I must not have been there. I would remember, but like, tell me, what's your name? And I recognized their last names, and they're like, we got married a couple of years ago. She's like, I will tell you, that's the only thing people talk about at our wedding reception was the churros. And I'm like, oh, really? She's like, we still have people come up to him and say, oh my gosh, those churros were so amazing at your wedding.
And I would argue if those churros were out on a platter on the table, they would have said not a single thing. But it was because the way San Diablo sets up is they've got their setup, they've got the uniform that they all wear, the things that you say, the way it smells,
The
everything's
cowbell,
everything's designed for the experience, right?
Yeah.
So you started an airline?
Yeah.
What?
I know.
Dude, I've always meant to ask this story, but plug this in really quick.
Oh man.
So is that next after the
So
nursing
after the
home?
nursing home business, then there's some other things in between, like some corporate consulting, and then I worked in
Of culture that you learned at the nursing home?
Actually, no. It was in HR, but it was with Fortune 500 companies. It was curriculum that I was working for the corporate executive board. Now it's called Gartner Group, and I was with them for a couple of years, and they are also a large publicly traded corporation themselves. And I just realized that was not for me. I loved the training and the consulting aspect of it, but
Yeah.
I'm much more of like, I'm too like squirrel, like ADD, and I like to be involved in everything of a business and not just like so narrowly pigeonholed into one element. And so I got out, and then I ran a home health agency for a couple of years. And that's when some friends came to me and said, hey, we have this crazy idea for this all-you-can-fly subscription-based airline, like a membership airline. I'm like, okay, well, tell me more. So we all got together, and then eventually, like, fast forward, it was really compelling, and then we got into an incubator, a business incubator in Santa Monica. And I remember when Wade called me, it was on New Year's Day that year, and he called and said, hey, we just got into this incubator.
What's that?
An incubator
Like a
is
pitch
like
you get into?
it's an early stage investment like group. You get like maybe 8 to 10 businesses together, and the incubator is an organization that exists to help all of these businesses launch.
With money.
Basically, yeah, with not much though. It's typically the incubator is I mean, there's all sorts of ways it's done, but many
It's like Silicon
incubators-
Valley type of stuff?
Totally, yeah. We were the only non-tech company in this incubator, and they said we got in, and we're gonna launch our airline from Santa Monica, and. Do you want to come help start an airline? I'm like, yeah, of course. Like, so all of us, so 5 of us that started, dropped what we were doing, and how many times do you get asked to like go start an airline? And so I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Of course, none of us, except one of the founders, was a pilot. None of us had previous airline experience, and I still remember that first day we went in, and it was like blank whiteboard. There were 3 of us at the time, and we're like, okay, today's our first day. We're starting an airline. It happened to be my birthday also, so we're like starting an airline. It's like, okay, what do we do? And we're like blank whiteboard, and we just started boom, boom, boom.
But you wanted to be
a
different type of model that was subscription based?
What's that?
You were going to be a different type of model, right?
Yeah, so no one had done a subscription membership airline before this. Southwest had done like an all-you-can-fly pass for a month.
Yeah.
And it like broke their system because of the way their system is structured. But we wanted to do pay a monthly fee and fly all that you want between the cities that we serve. So it was short commutes. We started with, it was all within California, and small aircraft with 8 seats.
Okay.
And in and out of private airports.
You contract out the pilots to...
No, they're ours.
They're
so
yours.
we have, it's like a scheduled service. So it's kind of like a cross between private jet ownership and scheduled and charter.
Got it.
And I'm sorry, and scheduled airline service. So it's kind of a cross between all of those. We flew in and out of the local airports. So you bypass all the security. You park, in the parking lot right there. You walk in, and they're like, "Hey, Ethan, how's it going?
This is for
Come on board."
corporate business people, so like
most
just
most
wealthy
for business
people wanting to travel.
I mean, some people were doing it because they flew a lot between San Francisco and LA, but mostly it was for travel.
Okay.
And it just like we reduced all of the pain of what we hate about air travel, and restored this kind of joy and nostalgia of the way that travel used to be. When you walk on, you're like,
you looped in the
"Ethan."
experience again.
Exactly. So it was just like, so that was what I focused on, was like all the marketing and member experience.
Yeah.
And so how do we create something that's special and where people feel like, and so we had this, I remember when we were going through the workshop of like, what are our values? And we had this really long discussion on first class, the F in surf. We're like, it was called Surf Air, and so we had each of the values of our were one letter in our name, and we had this long debate and discussion about, are we first class? because that has a lot of implications, right? Implications on what the expectation
Size.
is. Like is the uniform, are the uniforms like Southwest Airlines, like shorts and a Bermuda shirt, or are they like, a full suit and tie, three double-breasted suit or whatever. So it's, so we wanted to, anyway, we decided that our style of first class was going to be this approachable, kind, like not stuffy first class, but we wanted it to feel special, like you were coming,
different.
You were joining a special club. You're a member, we wanted you. And so we wanted you to get exclusive access to stuff and feel like when you came on board, it's like, oh, Ethan, so great to see you again. How's your family? Here's your Wall Street Journal and your pomegranate juice.
That's what we try to do at Thirst, I feel
exactly.
like.
Yeah. And it does. And this is the thing about like the experience. It's all about the relationship you're creating. And that's why I love using the taco experience as like a showcase for this amazing relationship that they build, because it doesn't have to be a Ritz-Carlton or really expensive sort of thing. It can be with a street taco, because it's more about creating human connection and building like this lasting relationship with people than it is about what you're selling.
Yeah.
And it could be like a 75-cent street taco. It could be a $4 soda. It could be churros. It could be, a stay in a, all-inclusive resort in Bali. It doesn't matter, because it's about the human connection and how you're making people feel like you care, like they're special, and like you want to give them
it's more
something
than just a
awesome.
sale.
Yeah.
Let's go. So what happened with the airline then?
So Surf Air, we launched, and it was awesome. We launched we had 3 cities that we launched between. San Francisco, LA, and Santa Barbara. We had 3 aircraft, and anyway, it was awesome. So we from the moment that we started till
it was doing well then?
That was a year and a half, and then we had we were running for about 6 months, and then there was like some we essentially had some financial struggles that
something happened.
Our venture capitalists that came in and our investors, essentially, I mean, they removed the 5 of us founders.
Got it.
For all intents and purposes, and asked
Was it
us
a bad
to
situation?
find. It was really tough.
Yeah.
Personally, it was really tough, because this was like all of us were all in. This
guys
was like
get-
blood, sweat, tears. We believed so deeply in what we were doing and how we were disrupting the airline industry and what possibilities there were, and we just saw so much future.
Did you
And so
get
it was
bought
a
out,
real like, in a lot of ways, felt like rug was pulled out from under us, And so yeah, it was really rough. But I had
How long ago
another.
was that?
It was right before Surf Air. Or, I mean, before San Diablo. It was Surf Air, so it was
like
right
6
before.
years ago?
Yeah, it was 6 years ago. Yeah, and so
So you
it
wouldn't
was
have
tough,
left by
though.
choice. You guys wouldn't have left by
Oh
choice.
no. And
Does it still exist today?
Yeah, it's still going. We still can fly it. So. But yeah, I mean, I don't live there right now, so I don't get to use it as much as I would otherwise. But
So fast forward and tell us how you got the idea for churros. How to go to churros?
yeah, so the idea
From
for
airplanes to churros.
I know, obvious connection, right? Obvious transition.
Yeah.
So,
But you knew you want to do an experience thing, I'm sure, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and so in a lot of ways, what had happened with Surf Air caused me to have this. I'm almost like this professional midlife crisis. Like, who am I? What am I doing? I have this like airline and nursing home and all these other things. But throughout all that process, some friends and I started a nonprofit as well, where we did international humanitarian service. For years, I've done expeditions abroad with Choice Humanitarian and Singular. And anyway, and my brother and I started a toy and game company. So I have all of these like random, like seemingly disconnected things. So who am I? What am I doing? What do I want? What do I want my impact to be in the world? And so a lot of like introspection and along those lines. And so I ultimately want to help businesses unlock the power of a thriving culture and this exceptional human connection based brand experience. And so that's what I like ultimately would love to do. And so while I'm in that process, I was like, gosh, but I want to, how do I go about creating that? And that's when, and you know, that type of like thought leadership stuff does not happen overnight. And so I wanted to get involved in a business and see my model, because I have a model of the way that I do things. And so I wanted to see my model work in another industry. And so that's why I thought food would be really fun. I love food.
Small enough where you could test it. And,
totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I wanted to be in the trenches also and say that like this works in travel and tourism. It works in healthcare.
Yeah.
And I wanted to see it work in food.
Yeah.
And so, so I was like, well, what do I do with food? I mean, I love tacos and I'm wild about them. And, you know, as you know, I have a taco podcast and all these things. But if I'm on the search for the perfect taco, I can't have a taco place, you know, because then supposedly that would be the best taco. Like, why would I not sell the best taco? Yeah. So I can't do tacos.
And tacos and churros pair perfectly.
Perfect. And I'm wild about Mexican food. My first exposure to the fresh filled churros was when I lived in Mexico City. I was a missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Mexico. And after my mission, that's where I like fell in love with the people, the culture, the food, everything Mexican, the language. And so, then after my mission, I went back and did an internship in Mexico City. And that's when it was over. It was just like, I love this place so much. And I had my friend, there's like a part where Frida Kahlo and Diego Rivera lived in the southern part of the city called Coyoacán. That was like the churro capital of the world. Yeah. And there's like there's like 7 churro places within 3 blocks. And so they were fresh filled churros. I'm like, why don't we have churros this good in America?
I love it.
This would be irresponsible not to bring it to America at some point. And so fast forward years later, I was like, now's the time. Yeah. To make it happen.
We've been jamming. Let me ask you 2 questions to wrap it up, kind of.
Yeah.
Because we could go for forever, I feel like. First is, this is tactic for a local business owner watching, or any type of business owner watching. Scott and I feel like, and I want to both answer this question because I got something I want to say too, which is, how do you build an experience out of just a coffee shop or a laundromat or plumbing service, or, you know, a bakery or a soda shop or a churro shop? Like most people's, if you're not used to it, like Scott was, learning from the nursing home and carrying it on to each of his businesses. If you're just starting out and you're starting, you know, a coffee shop or convenience store, like how do you create an experience out of your business? Because at the end of the day, for as much as I like marketing, there is nothing that drives more customers back to Thirst than the way we act at Thirst, I like to believe. The experience is absolutely everything. And so good marketing is just going to make people find out that they don't like you quicker if your experience isn't good. And so both have to be in check. Yeah. I've learned a lot about providing an experience through just watching San Diablo. So watching San Diablo's, their performance at events, the way they act, the way they interact with customers. But tell us about how you can create, if someone's listening like, okay, I need to take my experience more seriously. Where do you start? What do you look at? And what types of parts of the experience do you manipulate to make yours really good? Yeah. And memorable?
Yeah, totally. So I actually have like 4 elements that are part of that. So the first is like whatever you're selling, product, service, coffee, you know, soda, churros, whatever it is, fundamentally, it has to be good.
It just has to be good. Product?
Yeah. Yeah. The actual product or service has to be good. Yeah. Or you're not going to keep going back if it's not delicious. So even if you get treated like a million, if you're treated like $1 million, it doesn't matter. Yeah. If it's gross, you're not going to go back and eat it. So that's fundamentally, like I call it, like actually it's acronym for TACO. So the fundamentals. The next one is always different, positive, and special. So you have to figure out. I call it your sloth factor, because I was at this place in Peru one time, like artisan store. You guys have been in like third world countries or developing countries where they have artisan markets and they're all the same. Booth after, kiosk. They're all the same stuff, all the same price. There's nothing that differentiates any of them. I was there in this place and I was like, why would I stop anywhere and not go, like, why would I spend my money here and not there? Anyway, and just as I was thinking through this, because I can't take those lenses off ever, and I see down way at the end of the block, there's like so many people, huge crowd, like bursting at the seams. I walked down there, and this shop owner had a live sloth that you could take your picture with.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want to hold a live sloth? When have you ever held a live sloth? I mean, maybe you have.
Never held a sloth. Never one time.
You would always remember it. Right?
I would remember.
You would remember it. And they do, like, they have these claws that like are into your skin and they're like bristly and wiry and bony. Yeah. And so
do something different.
So it's the sloth factor. I asked like myself, what are we doing that's different, that draws people in, that makes it special? Like everything from we have a secret menu, we have a cowbell, we like look different than most other food trucks and catering people. So like, what is it that we talk to people about their lives, we engage with them. So different. The next one is just consistent commitment. Everyone always at every level has to be consistently committed. And then the last one is the wow factor. Like whatever makes you say, oh, wow. Wow, that was unexpected. Like you remember Colin from my team, like he named a churro after the guy that it was his birthday. He's like, this is the Ryland Delight. And so this little 8-year-old kid was like, oh my gosh, this is the churro named after me, And so then the mom commented to us and how special he made their son feel. Yeah. By naming a churro after. I've never told Colin, like, when you go to a party, name a churro after the kid. Yeah. And then you could never do that. Yeah. No. So you set up that culture where you're empowering your team to surprise and delight. Yeah. So
I would say my answer, I think of 3 things. The first is the core value that we have at Thirst, which is positivity is infectious.
Awesome.
I think the reason that people still to this day at Thirst open the window and in a kind of ridiculously high-pitched voice say, welcome to Thirst, how are you? And this overwhelmingly welcoming tone is because I did that for the first 2 years by myself every single time on the window. And it was infectious to the rest of my team, And so I think number one thing, if you're trying to improve your experience as the business owner, are you infecting your team with...
Are you setting the tone?
Are you setting the tone?
Totally.
Yeah. So that's number one. Number 2 for me, I've learned recently more, and I feel like I kind of learned this from you too, is we look at all of the different senses and literally try to map things out to them. So like sight, I learned a big one from San Diablo, which is their uniforms. It's so subtle, but it means so much, I think. Uniforms, what are your employees wearing and how are they presenting themselves? Because a lot of the times that's whether or not they're coming to you or whether or not they, how they feel about it. Smell. San Diablo does this great with churros. We've talked about, do we pump like popcorn scent into our drive-through to make this thing like Disneyland?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what the other things are, but the way, just looking at each of them, what are the 5 senses? Like sight, sound, music. Like music in our drive-through is, we want to have a Thirst playlist. People remember when they're at Thirst.
Right.
And looking at all the senses and like physically thinking of what can I do for each one of those things is really good. The last one I think is script the experience. There's no way you could have taught Colin that, but I think that there's some things like, for instance, what we're doing in our catering, I think Daniel's doing a really good job of, is like he's making part of their checklist that he made custom Thirst thank you cards. They write the host a thank you card at the end. That's required on the checklist.
Yeah.
I think, but it makes a big difference in the experience. Translate that to my stores. What are they mandated to say when they're taking your order, and how did that make the customer feel? Was it, what are we getting for you today? Or welcome to Thirst. What sounds good today? Yeah. To me, I feel like that's a big one. I like part of the script is what sounds good today. Now, what are we getting? Mm-hmm. Like even little things like that to me make a huge, huge difference in the experience. And so I think scripting it out, like what do you want your employees to say, where, look, be doing, and when the customer says one thing, what do they say back?
Totally.
Like, to a degree, you can mold your experience and then hold people
Absolutely.
accountable for doing it. And then there's other things. My last question, I ended with this last time, and it's a selfish one, but if you had any advice, if you could give advice to me, it could be about like anything, like about the way Ethan is just a human, like Scott, my friend, like Ethan, take more time off, or some advice I've been telling you about in my company, like what's something you've seen from afar that I would just love to know nothing more than what some advice you could have for me.
I like seriously.
I want some
on
help,
my way
Scott.
over here, I was like, I don't even know. I feel like I need to be asking like 5 of those questions for you to teach me.
Let me give you some context. I feel like one of the things I was telling you, I'm not struggling with, but I'm in the trenches and just really willing to learn right now is how to navigate people. Like I said, we have purchased double the amount of stores that we have right now. And in 1 year, we are going to be 250,
So
300
awesome.
person company.
Yeah.
Like how do I manage these relationships and navigate this thing? Like, is there any advice you can give for me there maybe?
I think along those lines, I think it would probably go back to what I was talking about a little bit earlier. Like, and I know that you already have some, like your mission and values and positivity and all of these like designed and crafted experiences that you're looking to do. And we haven't actually really talked much about this. So mostly my question would be like, is that codified? Like, is that, you do a culture training? Do all of your team members know your company values? I think, innately because of who you are, and I know, and I've seen you guys in action all over it, like you attract amazing people that like exude that positivity and share your values. As you get bigger, it is going to be more difficult to have that continue to trickle down unless your culture is established well. And I mean, that's like one of my absolute favorite things to do with people is to like help set that in motion. Like we call it's our San Diablo passport. Like everyone has a passport and it has like our mission, vision, values, like expectations, communication standards. When, like you were just saying, when people say this, what do we say? Yeah. Like all of those architected are there.
So it's super documented then.
Yeah.
It's part of your training,
we train
probably?
on it. Yeah. And we need to train more on it and we need to get so much better at it, but it's there and it's like the foundation. And as you continue to grow, that is the one thing that this is just as much for my own like remembrance as well, for my own business, for your business, for anyone's business at this stage, it is like mission critical to have that in place, because then that's the vision that you end up selling, and then that's the vision that people say, oh yeah, I want to be a manager at Thirst because I believe in them. I believe in what they're trying to do, and sure, like this is going to be my livelihood. Will all of your managers be with you for the next 30 years? Probably not. So let's have them bring all of their energy and enthusiasm right now and set that up as like there's something more than just a paycheck. This is important. What we're doing is having an impact. So
I think this answer, it's interesting because I feel like my thought of how I've approached culture is, I remember right at the beginning, I made up these bullcrap values. I was 18 years old, starting Thirst. And I was like, oh, you need company values because I read that or seen that on a YouTube video.
Right.
And it soon transitioned into those, first off, weren't the right ones. And two, like you actually do this at a one store level by leading just in the dirt with your hands.
You're in the trenches, dirty, hands dirty.
There's nothing stronger than the example. But what I'm hearing from you and what I'm learning and what I need to just kind of snap into, which is if we're talking about 10 stores and you're not talking about being at one store all the time, translating that is going to take more documentation and more structure than just relying on the fact that you're going to be there all the time to lead by example, because I'm not.
Right.
And it's a hard thing for me, honestly.
Like now is probably a really good time and maybe one of the best times to, as you're looking at this really great growth, is to bring those leaders together and almost do a refresh. Like, hey guys, when I was 18, I came up with these values.
Yeah.
Like, is this thirst now?
Yeah.
Like, and really like gut check, is this who we believe in? And if it's not, retool them, change them, modify. And by bringing that team together, you're saying, you're like engaging them in this process as well.
Yeah.
And then they're saying, oh yeah.
Would you do that with your leadership team?
Totally. Yeah. We're actually looking at doing that right now with San Diablo. I was just in Mexico for a couple of weeks. We're looking to launch down there soon. And
dude, that's going to be insane.
I know, it's going to be so great. But it's also giving us an opportunity to refresh our own brand and experience. Like, hey, okay, so are there things that, like, is this still what we believe? We have the strongest leadership team we've ever had, for the stage that we're in right now. And so bringing this team on and like how with like lots of experience right now and everything. And so how do is this San Diablo? And is there something we're missing?
I got to do the same thing.
Can we take it to the next level?
Yeah.
And I think that with mission and values, like that's what's so great about it. And that's what's so great about being the person that's like leading that charge, is that you can say, you know what? I don't know if this is the direction that we should be going. Maybe we should do this instead. Or is this the type, like
checking? I don't ever check, dude. I honestly don't ever check because I feel like my strategy is just run and go and figure it out and out hustle. But at the end, like, it's so important. I feel like this is something I'm going to do next week. So thank you.
Of course.
Dude, we doubled the time I told you, so I'm sorry.
No, I'm so sorry. I just talk way too much.
Let's plug this in. Scott is seriously an amazing entrepreneur. I can't wait to see what you keep doing, and I'm always going to be following your lead. So thanks for being on the show, on the podcast. At San Diablo Churros, but at Scott Porter.
Tell us where we can find you. Scott Craig Porter on LinkedIn, and then also search for The Perfect Taco on Instagram. And then the podcast is on there too. You can find it at Search for the Perfect Taco.
Okay, we're excited to link everything up. Scott, thanks, dude. Here's some more good times.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Woohoo! Dude, I feel like we could have talked for like 4 more hours. Thanks everybody for listening to another episode of the Learning by Doing podcast. It's been a blast having this podcast and be able to communicate with the Ethan from Thirst Nation in just another way. Speaking of Ethan from Thirst, if you guys haven't followed me on Instagram or checked out my YouTube channel, that's really where I'm sharing everything. The whole entrepreneurial journey, everything, every part of it, you're going to get it. Follow me at Ethan from Thirst on Instagram, and I'd be really grateful for your follow. I would look forward to having a conversation with you over DM. Leaving a review if you like this podcast too would be awesome, because I'm trying to get in the podcast game, and I'd love your approval. So thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next time.